the women of our family had been bound to orc marriages. In our generation now, only my sister and I remained. In our previous life, two suitors came forward, Gideon, the giant shark beastman, and Felix, the hawk beastman. Gideon was rugged, his appearance fierce. His world was deep beneath the waves. Marrying him meant abandoning the land and dwelling in the vast sea. Felix, in contrast, was refined, dignified, his presence commanding. He even vowed to remain in the human city, for the sake of his bride. Unwilling to see my frail sister suffer, my parents chose Felix for her. And so I was given to Gideon, bound to the ocean's depths. Day after day, my parents and sister flaunted the bliss of their city life before me. But scarcely half a month later, the rains came without end. Floods surged, swallowing nearly every human city. They clung desperately to a rotting plank, adrift at sea, waiting for Felix to scour the skies for food. But the endless labor wore him down. His wings gave out, torn and broken. Seeing no hope in him, my parents and sister tossed him into the waves like refuse. Unable to endure their suffering, they begged me for help. I relented. Pity stirred in me, and I brought them into the deep sea. Yet as I stayed at home, awaiting Gideon's return from the hunt, my parents decided I lived too well, better than their beloved Selai. So they laced our fish with poison. Why? The question tore from me as the venom burned through my veins. Why, when I was their child too, would they betray me for Selai's sake? They looked at me with nothing but disgust.
Kelly is frail. She deserves this life of comfort. You stole the good life that was hers.
In my parents' eyes, I owed Selai my entire life. Because I had absorbed too much nourishment in our mother's womb, Selai was born weak and frail. But was that my choice? Back then, I was nothing more than an ignorant infant. I watched coldly as my parents coaxed my reluctant sister, my gaze drifting to the two beastmen waiting nearby. Gideon was not the sort of man any girl would find appealing at first glance. He lived in the deep sea, after all, his rough, careless features hardly seemed out of place. His wedding gift consisted of nothing more than fish he had hauled from the ocean, and dried in the sun. Felix was entirely different. His handsome face could rival the young stars of idol dramas on television. His wedding gift followed human tradition, carefully prepared, each detail showing thought and sincerity. It was no wonder my parents had chosen him for Selai in our past life. Felix truly was a good man. Remembering how he ended up last time, I couldn't help but feel pity for him. But this time his fate should not be so tragic. I didn't know what my parents whispered to Selai, but after a long discussion, the three of them emerged, beaming. My parents clasped Gideon's hand, treating him warmly as their son-in-law.
Telly is gentle, kind, and beautiful. She's a perfect match for you.
Then father's tone shifted as he glanced at me, filled with disdain, as though I weren't his daughter at all. As for Avery, she can marry Felix. And so the marriages were settled. Gideon, impatient to return to the sea, was eager to take Selai away at once. He despised the land, always complaining it was too dry. It was the same in my last life. Right after our engagement, he dragged me down into the deep. But back then, my parents never cared how I fared. Now that Selai was his wife, they would not sit idly by.
Kelly's health is poor. We've decided the two of us will move in as well. There are things we'll need to pack, Gideon, so don't rush off just yet,
Mother said with a smile. She called it a discussion, but it was nothing more than an announcement. Gideon's impatience was written all over his face. Then make it quick. With that, he strode out to wash up. Selai's expression soured. Mom, Gideon is far too arrogant. I really don't like him. Mother hurried to embrace her, soothing her with soft words. Oh, my little treasure, so what if a man is arrogant? Think of the endless rains to come. Don't you want a life of comfort and plenty? At that, Selai's mood lightened. But when she turned and saw me standing nearby, her lips curled into a sneer. Why are you still here? Why isn't your husband eager to take you away? Avery, don't tell me you are still hoping for a share of our parents' estate. Let me make this clear, you won't get a single thing. Everything belongs to me. Her arrogance drew no rebuke. My parents simply stood at her side, nodding in agreement. That's right. Avery, we've already worked hard enough raising you. When will you register your marriage with Felix and move out? Oh, and don't bother packing the things from your room. We are saving everything for Selai. I couldn't help but laugh. Raising me? You mean the way you forced me to start working at 16, earning my own living while handing over money to support this family? And what room are you talking about? That storage closet you shoved me into. Even those broken wooden scraps you call furniture, you can't bear to part with them. With that, I took Felix's hand. He had appeared at some point without my noticing. I turned on my heel and walked away. Behind me, my parents stood frozen in awkward silence, staring at one another in dismay.
You.
Felix hesitated, his handsome face tinged with sympathy. Among the beastmen, he was unusual, one of the rare few who preferred human ways of living, and thus he knew a little about our kind. Yet even so, he had never imagined that human society, so advanced and prosperous, could still leave someone to live as miserably as I had. He couldn't understand my parents. Even in the great beastman clans, where offspring were numerous and favoritism existed, they followed the law of the wild, survival of the fittest. Favoring the weak over the strong was something unseen and unheard of. Humans truly were strange. From the look in his eyes, I understood what he wanted to say. I smiled. The past doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that every day from now on, away from that house, will only get better. Felix nodded, half comprehending. After we registered our marriage, he suddenly reached out and clasped my hand.
Honey.
The word rang out with such force that it didn't even make me blush. If anything, it felt like he was about to raise a cup of wine and swear brotherhood with me. But what he said next made me want to throw my arms around him and kiss him. I have homes in 3 different cities. Wherever you want to live, we'll live there. If you prefer the city, then we'll stay in the city. But if you don't, he gritted his teeth. Back home, I still own an entire mountain. Though for you humans, it might feel a little high up. My eyes lit up instantly. The mountain. Let's live on the mountain. Ah. Felix scratched his head in confusion. I thought humans all preferred apartments and high rises.
That's why I bought those city homes. Won't you find mountain life uncomfortable? No food delivery service out there, though. There is Wi-Fi.
I shook my head quickly. No, not at all. I'd love it. Sell those city homes, we'll live on the mountain together. After all, in the city it's all towers and concrete. You wouldn't even be able to fly. In the previous life, when he flew out searching for food, collapsing debris from the flooded city had crushed his wings. And for a hawk, a broken wing was no different from being crippled. At my words, clumsy, but still a kind of concern, Felix blinked, startled. All right then. We'll live on the mountain. And one day, when the chance comes, I'll take you flying. The image sent a shiver down my spine. Millimeters, let's leave that for later. Instead, I led him back to my family home. There wasn't much there that truly belonged to me. But I had bought plenty of little things with my own earnings, and I wasn't about to let that family take them for free. Most importantly, my grandmother, the only one who had ever cherished me, had sewn me a little doll before she passed away. She left it in my room. I had to take it with me. But when I brought Felix to the house and keyed in the passcode, the lock refused to open. I tried several times, to no avail. In the short time we'd been gone to collect our marriage certificate, they had actually changed the code. Fury surged through me. I pounded on the door. Open up. Open the door. I could hear voices inside, proof that they were home, yet not a single one of them came to answer. It was obvious. They were ignoring me on purpose. A pulse throbbed furiously between my brows. Felix laid a comforting hand on my shoulder, but I drew in a deep breath, and gestured for him to step back. The next second, under his startled gaze, I kicked the door. It didn't give way the first time, so I kicked again. And again. Until the lock began shrieking with electronic beeps, its alarm blaring. Only then did the 3 people inside finally drop their act of silence. Why are you so hot-tempered? Mother snapped the moment the door opened, slapping a label on me without hesitation. I met her eyes with a cold smile. You changed the passcode, ignored my knocking, and I'm the one with a temper. Father quickly stepped in, trying to smooth things over. After all, Felix was an outsider, and appearances still mattered to them. It was just a joke, why take it so seriously? I sneered and headed straight for my little storeroom of a room. Their faces shifted instantly.
Hey, Avery, you just got back. What's the rush? Can't you at least bring us some tea? Sit with us a while? Do we even exist in your eyes as your parents?
Strange. They had never once wanted me to serve tea or keep them company. That privilege had always belonged to Selai. Of course, they never actually let their precious darling pour the tea. No, this wasn't about me being unfilial. They simply didn't want me in my room. What had they done in there? I wrenched my wrist free from Mother's grip, ignoring her shrill cries of ungrateful and sinful child, and shoved the door open. Selai sat on my bed, startled as her head jerked up. My belongings were strewn across the floor in chaos, and in her hand was a pair of scissors. On the ground, the doll my grandmother had made for me, the only one who had ever truly loved me, lay headless. My vision blurred. Selai. I lunged, seizing her hair with both hands. Why would you destroy my doll? Don't you know it was a gift from Grandma? She cried out in pain, tears spilling, yet her words were venomous.
Of course I know. So what? That old hag made you a doll, but not me! Everything in this house is mine. Why should she love you more than me?
Rage surged until I wanted nothing more than to strangle her. But my parents dragged me back, gripping my arms so hard they left deep red marks. She's your younger sister, she's frail, she's delicate. As the elder sister, can't you give in to her? The same excuse, the same words I had heard all my life. But this time, I refused to endure it any longer. In my past life, I still clung to the bond of blood, soft-hearted enough to invite wolves into my home, only to be killed by them. This time, I wanted no ties with my parents. Yet they still thought I was someone they could trample on. My eyes burned red as I slapped Selai twice across the face, hard. Father's expression darkened. He raised his arm as if to strike me. But Felix stepped in immediately, blocking him. Even in human form, beastmen were massive. At nearly 1.90 meters, Felix towered over him. I watched Father's bravado crumble in an instant, and couldn't help but laugh. So that was it, he only bullied the weak and feared the strong. I smashed everything in the house, valuable or not, until the suffocating weight in my chest eased. Then, with a cold smile at the 3 cowering figures in the corner, I gathered my belongings and the ruined doll, took Felix's hand, and walked away. As we left, I still caught their voices comforting Selai.
It's fine. Once the floods come, that ungrateful wretch won't even have a place to hide. Either she drowns miserably or she'll crawl back to beg us.
As long as you stay close to Gideon, she won't be smug for long. Just wait and see. They truly believe that the giant shark was salvation in the apocalypse. Absurd. No matter how human-like a beastman's form, the wildness of their nature remained. In my past life, they only saw me waiting at home while Gideon brought back fish, never noticing the catch dwindling, or how his eyes on us grew increasingly predatory. This life, if they want to chase that so-called fortune, let them. Together, Felix and I sold off his city properties in a flash, trading them for supplies. We transported everything to his mountain estate. The mountain was steep, soaring high into the clouds. What I didn't expect was that Felix had gone so far as to build an entire manor on it. And because he feared I'd find climbing too tiring, he had even installed a cable car overnight. When I stepped off the lift and looked up at the sprawling estate, easily over 2,000 square meters, my jaw nearly hit the ground. This is your home? Felix scratched his head, looking almost embarrassed.
Yes. We birds tend to be particular about our nests, and since I prefer human comforts,
Suddenly, he slapped his thigh as if he'd remembered something crucial. I forgot. Humans care about different decor styles. What kind do you like? If you don't like this one, we can tear it all down and rebuild. My basement still stocked with piles of steel and cement. Once he started talking about construction and design, he couldn't stop. It took all my effort to interrupt. No. It's perfect. I really like it. No need to rebuild. All right then, he said, though his handsome face carried a hint of disappointment. But soon he brightened, eagerly showing me every detail of the manor. It took over an hour to walk the entire estate. By the time we finished, my calves ached, and only one thought filled my mind. Oh, man. How am I gonna maintain and clean up such a huge estate? After Felix and I finished storing the supplies and planting the vegetable seeds indoors, half a month slipped by. During those 2 weeks, my parents called me on video several times. Since our relationship had already soured, their intentions were never kind. They only wanted to flaunt how blissful Selai's life was now that she was with Gideon. I treated it as entertainment. Truth be told, life on the mountain was a little dull. So, in a way, they became my electronic pets. To prolong the amusement, I even chose the smallest room in the manor to take their calls. Each time they proudly showed off the fish Gideon had caught for Selai, I would glance at the chicken stew and sweet and sour carp simmering on my left, then at the stir-fried mushrooms and vegetable egg soup on my right, before letting out a sigh of mock envy. My parents and Selai were utterly satisfied with my reaction. When the rain began, they dropped all pretense and revealed their malice outright. This rain won't last long. Just stay put and wait it out at home. Anyone with half a brain could tell they hoped I'd be trapped by the downpour and die slowly in the apocalypse, but since I still wanted to enjoy the show later, I nodded along, assuring them I wouldn't go out or prepare anything. As soon as the call ended, I went back to planting vegetables with Felix. Honey. His tone carried a hint of grief. You can't make an eagle grow vegetables every day. That's abuse. Then what do you want to do? Let me feed the chickens? I shook my head immediately. Absolutely not. He drooped at once. Why not, honey? Why can't I feed the chickens? Because every time you do, you scare them half to death. You tell me why. I could only sigh in exasperation. Since moving to the mountain, Felix had revealed his true nature. But perhaps that was a good thing. He was still so young, and in our past life, he'd been forced to shoulder the burden of my family, only to be betrayed in the end. This time, it was just the two of us. As long as we were happy, that was enough. Lost in thought, I suddenly felt my hand being clasped. Honey. Felix's eyes blazed with intensity. Then let's do it together. The rain grew heavier. What started as a gentle drizzle soon turned into a relentless downpour. We sat on the sofa, watching through the floor-to-ceiling windows as raindrops drummed against the earth. Isn't this rain lasting a little too long? Felix held me close, frowning slightly. Beastmen were always sharp, his instincts were sounding the alarm. I nodded. Fortunately, we had reinforced the power system earlier. Otherwise, with rain this heavy, a blackout would have been a real problem. Honey, should we go take a look outside? I blinked. How? By flying, of course. He ruffled my hair, murmured something under his breath, and suddenly, wings unfurled across his back. Smiling like the hero of some childhood cartoon, he scooped me into his arms and shot upward. The next second. Thud. Felix slammed straight into the ceiling. Ugh. Honey, it hurts. I fell silent. What an idiot bird. At last, Felix steadied himself and carried me into the sky to see what was happening at the foot of the mountain. Just a few dozen kilometers away lay a small county town. The floods had already begun, yet the people there still treated it like an ordinary natural disaster. At most, they stocked up on food, believing that once the rain stopped, life would return to normal. After all, entire floors of buildings had been submerged before, but as long as the skies cleared, things eventually recovered. But I knew, this time, the rain would not stop. When we returned, I wrote a letter and asked Felix to deliver it to the county officials. He came back with his hair damp and tousled, eyes shining with pride. I delivered it, honey. Praise me. All right, all right. My husband is the best. Laughing, I tossed him a towel and rubbed his hair dry. We were still busy when another video call from my parents popped up. Avery, is it flooding? My father sprawled carelessly on a sofa carved from seashells. Beside him, my mother and Selai daintily sipped sea cucumber porridge. I raised a brow. Yes, the floods have already started. How tragic, my mother said with feigned sorrow before holding up her bowl.
Look at this sea cucumber. Ever seen one this big? Gideon caught it himself. Take a good look. You won't even get the chance to see one in the future.
I adjusted the camera angle and rolled my eyes where they couldn't see. True. I can't eat it. Why don't you send me some? Selai immediately let out a derisive laugh. What kind of daydream is that? With the floods, nothing can be shipped right now.
Even if it could, what makes you think you deserve to eat what my husband brings home? Just stick to gnawing on the bugs that useless Felix catches for you. Let's see how long before you starve to death.
Her tone dripped with spite. Then, as if to twist the knife, she deliberately dumped her half-finished porridge into the trash, right in front of me. I only arched a brow. So wasteful. And Gideon tolerates that. I wondered. Sure enough, the next instant, Gideon, who had been quietly sitting to the side, suddenly erupted.